Ryan Riptide, Charlie Ontiveros, obviously, his dad, Charles Ontiveros. We trained a little bit with Anderson Silva. So there were some big names I was actually training with. And that's the thing about MMA that people don't understand. You see that one fight, but there's such an exhausting process of training where you are literally getting your tail end kicked. And it was pretty rough, but it's what you have to do. It's how they say 90% of the iceberg is underwater. That's what it was to get to the successful part of MMA.
Okay, now, when you compare MMA to professional wrestling, do you think MMA, because I definitely understand the entertainment factor when it comes to professional wrestling, do you ever think MMA will add the entertainment aspect of it, or do you think they will always just concentrate on the athleticism?
Well, there's two. To answer that, it's yes and no. No, in the sense like there's always going to be that conservative part of MMA where they want to be their own entity. They don't want to be like anything else. They don't want to be like boxing. They don't want to be like professional wrestling. The problem is that's boring. It's boring. You know, no one wants to just see a regular fight. That's why Muhammad Ali was such a famous boxer, because he added that entertainment part to it. And it's a fun fact that people don't know. Muhammad Ali was actually influenced by a famous wrestler named Gorgeous George. And that's what you do. And that's what you see with Conor McGregor. You see it with so many people now where they're adding an entertainment part to it, because no one wants to see a regular fight. They want to see people trash talk, and they want to see people with the big fancy suits. It makes people want to tune in more. So the entertainment part is coming towards it. But I think that the problem right now with MMA is they're too conservative with it. They want to just keep it strictly fighting, strictly orthodox fighting, and that doesn't work. So I think they need to take a page from their professional wrestling cousins and just embrace the entertainment, because it's going to draw more people into it. And that's definitely what I did with it, because you have to create almost a character too. When I was fighting, I earned the nickname Magic, and so I just kind of embraced it. And so I would just come out and I would have the robe on, I would have stars and dust, and it just kind of captivated people more to want to see, like, who is this guy, versus some guy just looking angry and walking down the aisle to the cage. It's not as fun. So definitely needing to add the entertainment, and I think they will eventually.
Okay. Now, what is your status when it comes to being an MMA fighter today?
Today I'm retired, and that's where the unfortunate thing with the MMA industry is. I did great. I won championships, multiple weight classes, but what ended up happening was just a couple of years ago, I had some major concussions, and the injuries I had besides the concussions were quote-unquote minor. I mean, but it was like, dislocated shoulder, dislocated thumb, dislocated jaw. And you just have to stop, and you have to go one day, you have to say, well, do I want to keep doing
90 seconds.
It's a hard thing when it comes to a fighter. You just don't want to stop. You never want to stop. And I did not want to stop. But I said, what's the worst that could happen? And the worst that could happen could be you could literally die when it comes to MMA. So I wrapped up my career in about 2019. And then after that, I said, this is it. But I ended it on my terms. So that's a fortunate thing that many fighters don't get to say and don't get to do.
60 seconds.
What was your final MMA record?
My final MMA record was 9 wins, 0 losses.
So you retire undefeated?
I retired undefeated. You can't do better than that.
Okay. All right, look, the last question I want to ask you when it comes to MMA and fighting, and it's just an opinion. How do you feel about the upcoming Floyd Mayweather-Jake Paul fight and what it says for the sport of boxing? Even though you're an MMA fighter, what do you feel about that?
Yeah. When it comes to boxing, MMA, they're all related. It's like, apples, oranges, bananas. Yeah, they're different, but they're all fruits. It's one thing. On one hand, it's like, this is
10 seconds.
Why is this even happening? But at the same time, as you were talking about earlier, we need to embrace that entertainment part. As much as people don't like Jake Paul, as much as they say he shouldn't be there, I don't know if it's Logan or Jake, but either way, it brings a new audience to the fight game. And Lloyd, he brings people in general. And so what that can do is on the other undercard, that can bring up new fighters. Like, hey, who was that guy that I saw on that Mayweather fight? So it's one of those things that sometimes we just have to embrace the entertainment once it comes to boxing and stuff like that.
Okay, no doubt. All right, so let's move forward to music. Like, what made, because you say you start singing at a young age, were you actually pursuing music while you were doing MMA, or was that something you picked back up after you retired?
It was something that I picked back up after I retired. So the thing was, I was always inspired by the harmony style music. You know, I listened to people like the Five Satins, Benny King, Michael Jackson, NSYNC, Boyz II Men. It was stuff like that that just really inspired me when I was making my music. So I was always writing songs for a harmony style group. The problem is, you already know how it is, and even in your personal life, people aren't committed. They think it sounds cool. Yeah, let's do it. But no one really was. So every time I tried to get a group together, it just fell apart. So I just ended up giving that up shortly after high school. What ended up happening was, it was during my final fight, a buddy of mine who I've been friends with for years, he was training in MMA too. He was training in some boxing. He told me he was going to pursue a music career. And I just sat there and I thought, I was like, you know, this is my calling. I'm already kind of closing the door on MMA now. I'm closing the door on things I've done before. This is the one dream I just have never pursued. But everything was about a musical group. So I said, look, buddy, I tell you what, you make a couple songs. Once you're established, let's get together and we'll kind of make a little duo and we'll make some songs together. So it was kind of the MMA was passing the baton to open the door back up for me to get in, to chase my dreams into music.
Okay. Now, how do you classify your style of music?
I would say my style of music is more so contemporary R&B. However, I do all types of music, but as far as my solo music that I'm starting to pursue now is definitely contemporary R&B. But what I've done before, as far as the duo with my buddy Camaro Hayes, it's been, I guess you could say, hip hop / R&B, because we're definitely singing, but it's more upbeat, and there's even parts where we're rapping and stuff like that. That's what I would say my style is.
Okay. Like, who are some of your influences?
Some of my influences for my music, there's quite a few. I would say definitely Benny King back in the 60s will stand by me. Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake, the Boyz II Men, around that, New Edition. Those were some of my biggest influences. And I think why it was with those, with that particular style of music was two different things. I wanted music that was soul soothing. That's something that's really, it's been kind of missing in me tonight, soul soothing music. I wanted that, but I also like the entertainment, the flashy style of it. So that's what kind of influenced me, and those are my influences even to this day.
Okay. All right, so now, as you're full steam ahead pursuing the music, like, how hard is it for you to craft your sound, to find producers to give you the right beats, and how challenging is it for you to make sure you have that proper presentation for your future fans?
It is. It's very, very difficult and very challenging. And I think the reason why is I have a certain vision in my head, and it's a style that's really hard to hear nowadays, because most people, when it comes to, and I hate to sound like an old guy saying, well, you know, this day and age, but I think nowadays, within the last, 15 years, social media has transformed the music industry completely. That before it was the 15 minutes of fame, now it's your 30 seconds of fame. How quick can you get someone's attention? So I didn't want that. I didn't want that style of music. I wanted a style of music where it's like, hey, we can kind of slow down and enjoy life. And so it's been really hard to find that. And I've been noticing a lot of times when it comes to my music, a lot of these producers, they wanted to change it. They were like, well, why don't you do it this way? And I'm like, no, I know what I want to do. So it's been a real hard challenge, not just with producers and engineers, but also people I wanted to work with. There's been many people I wanted to sing records with, but they don't want to do it that way. They want to do a style where it's very, how can we get someone's attention right now? So it's definitely been a challenge so far.
All right. Now, we all know ladies are the number one consumer of music. What would you have for the ladies?
Mm-hmm. Right now, what I have for the ladies is a song called All Night. And this is a very smooth R&B style song. It's not overly sexualized. It's really simple love making or sit down, have a glass of wine style of music. And that's the style of music I'm actually trying to pursue from this point forward. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay. All right. Now, that song there, who actually produced it, and how can people get their ears on it?
It's actually streaming right now. So you can go to any platform, YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, whatever. Just look up my name, Micah, Micah Ashby, Ashby, just All Night. It was pretty simple. Who ended up producing that was a guy named in Dallas called Brownie Beats. He's not really into the love-making R&B stuff. He's more into the funky hip-hop, but I told him what I wanted, and it took us a few weeks to craft something together, but we ended up producing something pretty good. And after about 3 or 4 months of talking and creating something, that's what ended up creating the final piece.
Okay. All right. Now, did you actually write the song, or was it written for you?
No, I wrote the song myself. I write all my songs. I'm not opposed to having someone write the songs for me, but what I've been doing is I know once I write a song, it's from my heart. It's from my hand. It's my passion. So I know the right tunes and the right chords. I'm not opposed to someone writing for me, but I would feel like I would be seeing their passions, and that hasn't been something I've been necessarily wanting to chase for, at least right now.
All right. Last question before I have you introduce your record. How have you been able to utilize the World Wide Web and social media when it comes to getting your vision and your music to the masses?
So the hard thing is with social media itself is it's catching lightning in a bottle. You just better hope you find the right people, because if you're posting too much and you're doing all of this stuff, then people are going to get annoyed. They're not going to want to follow you. So social media has been one thing where I've used my friends to kind of help me, but the biggest thing I've been doing is doing something international. Luckily for me, I know multiple languages, so I've been able to talk to people outside of the country and pushing them through certain promotions. And I said, hey, listen to this great American music. Don't you like it? Places in Pakistan, India, Ireland, Spain, Latin America. And they like it, and they've been the ones who have been pushing it for me. Because, unfortunately, in this big Broadway, we call it the United States of America, it's pretty easy to get flushed out. But so far, working internationally has definitely helped me out quite a bit.
Okay. How can people find you when it comes to the World Wide Web?
Obviously, you can just Google search me, Micah Ashby, Micah Ashby. You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram name is Mr. Anytime. Mr. spelled out all the way, and of course the word anytime.
All right. Do me a favor. Introduce your record to the world.